these particular archetypes. It's actually a pretty conscious, deliberate depiction of fatherhood and motherhood in a mythological framework. Not in a naturalistic framework, but in a mythological one. So,
Well, if you don't want to start with that, do you want to start with how excited we are about Snoop Dogg and Zac Efron?
Oh, I forgot about this. Okay, this is way better to start with. Holy shit. Like, at the top of this, so do you want to give people the rundown on what this leak is? It's like a primer before I go off on this.
Like, here's the thing. With the last two quote-unquote leaks we've had, I think there was some real effort to make it seem like it was a real thing. I can't believe this is anything other than just a really good joke. Like, it's...
I don't know. I take issue with that. I don't know how much effort somebody put into Salos. I mean, it was kind of...
Well, they wrote up a lot. This, I feel, is just like, I don't know. Okay, so a couple, I think it's, from right now we're talking about, I think it's almost a week ago, because I missed it originally. Someone had posted, like, hey, did you see this leak? And what is this, on GameFixShow.com? I've never even heard of that. Someone posted a leak of the E3 2018 Electronic Entertainment Expo, like the listing of all the new games coming out. On the very first page, it says Electronic Arts, which they have their own thing on EA Play, so I don't know if this is it's the whole thing's stupid. But it says, the two Bioware-centric things is, one, it's, the new Dragon Age game is being revealed first, saying Dragon Age Rise of Tiamat, with a new character creator, a speech from Casey Hudson, and Dungeons & Dragons collaboration reveal. Because if you know, Dungeons & Dragons Rise of Tiamat is like just a like one of the campaigns you can run.
Right.
Which, that makes no goddamn sense. But my favorite part is Anthem, where they have it, which is formatted strangely of cinematic trailer, gameplay trailer, and my favorite, presentation featuring Snoop Dogg and Zac Efron.
Yeah, like the two most like widely recognizable gaming figures, right? Like Snoop Dogg and Zac Efron. That's exactly who it's. Although, I mean, it's one of those things where like it sounds so stupid, but then again, there have been a lot of stupid E3. I'm not saying this is real for a second. I'm just saying, like, there's that part of your brain that goes like, even though this is horrible and obviously fake, you don't put it past someone within EA to do something as stupid as this.
I'll be honest though, if something ever happens and Snoop Dogg and Zac Efron are even in the same movie, I would be surprised. Like, I would watch the shit out of an Anthem reveal with Snoop Dogg and Zac Efron. That would be so strange.
Oh, the Anthem, I mean, the reveal presentation would be the best part of that game's existence.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even if the game's great, the fact that those two people together are playing it would be amazing. And there's a whole bunch of other stupid stuff. Like, the first page got on the Dragon Age subreddit, but there's like, let's see, Red Dead Redemption 2, Elder Scrolls Online, that's actually real. Fallout Nuevo El Paso.
Oh, that's where they lost me. Like, I mean, they lost me.
That's where they lost you? That's where...
I mean, they lost me before that, but Destiny 2, Ghosts of Nagasaki. I mean, there's a lot of, the Rock Band 4, Michael
Ghosts
Jackson.
Of Nagasaki? That's a one.
Well, they have like Rock Band 4 Michael Jackson tribute, which is like,
yeah,
it's all stupid, but just like it's stupid in the way where it's still plausible.
I don't know. Kingdom Hearts 3 says there's going to be a release date, and I don't believe that for a second.
I mean, the titles are amazing though, right? Like One Punch Man, One Is All It Takes.
Mm-hmm.
The Crackdown 3 presentation was apparently going to feature Terry Crews.
I missed that.
Which I love me some Terry Crews, honestly. Crew. I mean, come on. But still, this is just, yeah. But once it got down to Bethesda, it just got completely ridiculous.
Ooh, World of Warcraft PlayStation 4 edition.
Oh,
how would that even work on a controller?
Well, Elder Scrolls Online works on a controller, but they've got a pretty good controller setup, though. Yeah, once it got down to Fallout Nuevo El Paso, and then right underneath that, a Morrowind HD remake, I'm like, okay, time out. Like, we just overloaded the stupid meter. Like, you're going to have to dial some of this back.
Anyway, so that was the... What I don't get is that, like, I saw someone on Tumblr going like, oh my god, is this real? What's Tiamat? I'm like, no, guys, no. How can you believe... Like, if nothing else, if you don't know anything about gaming, who would have Snoop Dogg and Zac Efron
oh, wait,
together?
I didn't even keep scrolling down. If you keep going down to Sony, they have Heavy Rain 2, Children of the Origami Killer.
Oh, man.
Soul Calibur 6, exclusives, Cloud and Tifa. This is great, man.
Oh, boy. Anyway, Jordan, what do we want to talk about today?
We've decided that we wanted to, appropriately enough, as we start off bashing the fake E3 presentation, that we wanted to start off talking about major trends in gaming and potentially how they might intersect with Bioware.
So because my husband right now is playing a Battle Royale game, Battle Royale games, I didn't expect that one to be huge, but holy shit, it's everywhere now.
Yeah, we're starting on the exact same space, and I mean, if people don't realize, we sort of semi-plan the episodes, but we don't normally go into too much detail as far as exactly what order we're going to go into things, but I did have that at the top of my list, was Battle Royale stuff, and I'm going to sound old. I'm going to sound like somebody who's just maybe I want things to be that they used to be. I'm just not a fan. I don't play Fortnite. I don't get down on PUBG. I even, in one of my latest videos, which I was talking about Skyrim, I sort of very quickly slipped in a little jab towards PUBG. Because I just don't find them to be very substantial or very compelling video games in general. I know I might draw a lot of ire from it. It's not even just the fact that they're narratively lacking. I find the device that they're using from a gameplay standpoint to be sort of one note. It's like, I get it, you're being forced into a smaller and smaller area, and you're picking up weapons, but it's like that's not particularly anything new. Some of the construction stuff and like the building aspect of Fortnite, I guess, is unique, but I don't find it compelling. I don't find it that interesting, and so I don't know. Do you play any of these regularly?
Oh god, no. I hate those type of games. But my husband and his friend, well, our friends, I guess, play it like every night. Like it's that and soccer cars. What's that called? Rocket League. There we go.
Rocket League, yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear them play it because they play it so often, but they all hate it just because it's really though, like they hate it because like the way the game is made, it's super buggy. They keep complaining that I guess like when the servers go down, it goes down at like the peak gaming hours for America because it has a huge audience overseas. So they cater to the audience overseas, so they get shafted all the time.
But it's such a typical response though, because I mean I had my days of being really hardcore into Halo 2 and Halo 3, and then Bad Company 2 for a little bit, and that just seems like a typical thing when like the most hardcore fans like quote unquote hate the game, like we spend our time playing it and then complaining about it the entire time.
It's amazing how much they say they hate it, and like they just get so angry at it sometimes, and then they just keep going back. I don't understand that mentality. Like I can't think of a game that I've played so often but just genuinely hate. And like they keep looking for a new game to play, but then they always just go back to PUBG and Rocket League. I'm old. I don't know what this is called anymore.
Is there something? I mean, I don't think I hated, but I did not particularly like Modern Warfare 2. But so many people that I knew at the time played it that if you wanted to play something with people online, what people wanted to play was Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah.
And I feel like a bit of that is where PUBG and Fortnite is at, where they've become like the MySpace, or I mean potentially Facebook, I guess, but assuming there's some merit to Facebook where there wasn't with MySpace, they're like the MySpace of video games now, where it's like you're there because your friends are there whether you want to be or not.
That's a really good point, because I know they, like, a lot of times will say, like, oh, this older game was cool and it's on sale now, and they go online, but, like, there's nobody on it, so, like, they don't end up playing it a lot. Even though they like the game better, it's just there's no one to be against them, so there's really no point. So I think this, like exactly what you said, this is exactly what's happening with Fortnite everything, because Fortnite is everywhere. Like,
it's huge.
My husband's boss's child is obsessed with it, and that's all he talks about. Apparently he's a Fortnite streamer, which is really cute. He's like, I don't know, he's probably like early teens, so I just can't imagine like little kids streaming this. I don't know, that's a weird territory for me, watching little kids stream. But
I mean, even if someone's never played Fortnite, like, you cannot escape the effect of it, the memes and the GIFs and everything, where, like, I'm not saying that there's no value to the setup of the gameplay structure. I can see how that would be compelling. And oh, by the way, I think Rocket League is actually fun. I think it's good fun. It's not anything I would play for a significant amount of time, but it's pretty nice. You know, it's pretty good, mindless fun. And also, I mean, just on the aspect of it as a trend, it's clearly growing, right? Call of Duty just announced no single player for the first time ever in the franchise. So the next Call of Duty Black Ops game will not have any single player, and it will be online only, and it will include a battle royale component. That's huge. I mean, that's something where, you know, Call of Duty has been a staple of the industry as a whole, primarily known for multiplayer, but, you know, Call of Duty 2, Modern Warfare, maybe Black Ops 3 if you're favorable towards it. They have had some memorable and pretty worthwhile single player campaigns. The fact that they're abandoning that in favor of this sort of model is pretty significant. Battlefield just released their trailer for Battlefield 5 that will include a single player, but, you know, presumably their multiplayer offerings are going to skew something towards this. I mean, Battlefield has always been known for having huge maps anyway. So it does seem like things are going that way. I mean, I would assume that we're safe in saying that, well, no, not BioWare, because we don't exactly know enough about Anthem to say that it's not going to have that, but I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts? How much is this particular trend, before we move to any others, going to intersect with BioWare games, do you think?
It might eventually, but I think it might be too late for Anthem. Like Battle Royale games have only been really popular with, you know, honestly just the past couple months, and that is way too quick for them to pump it out into Anthem, I think. Like, if they do try to do it for Anthem, or, well, they might be able to do it for Dragon. Well, that's another thing. But if they do it for Anthem, it'll probably might be like a patch of some sort, or or even kind of a rushed job a little bit. Like, it's, for what we saw, at least in the trailer, it seemed only about like 4 people were really playing at once. I don't think it could really handle like 100 at a time. But I don't know. We don't really know that much about Anthem to say for sure. I would just be really shocked if they were able to, day one, have a Battle Royale mode in Anthem.
Yeah, it kind of seems like they're going for something a little bit different. I mean, I do think Battle Royale games have been brewing a bit longer than that. You're right that they've reached their, I don't know what, I wouldn't say pinnacle, but they're really sort of coming to a crescendo now. But, I mean, like H1Z1 is, I mean, even though it's been sort of a work in progress, it's kind of been around for a little bit. I think for whatever reason, even though PUBG has been popular for a long time, Fortnite really hit in some way where it just kind of sparked a big thing. Yeah, I think you're right, though. Ultimately on Anthem, the most I could ever see is maybe they offer some kind of DLC that incorporates it as one game mode. But even that, it might be something they explore more in a sequel. And I don't think, you know, obviously the traditional BioWare game just doesn't mesh with that type of gameplay at all. Oh, yeah.
Like, I do not see them doing that with Dragon Age at all.
I don't see how they could do it. I mean, it would be really ham-fisted if they did.
Yeah, it would be like I thought the DAI multiplayer was maybe not like ham-fisted, but was definitely like shoved onto the side. Like, oh, here, have a multiplayer, because I don't know, loot boxes, please buy your stuff. But like yeah, it would really feel stapled on there, and I don't think it would do well. And I think the thing with like DAI multiplayer is pretty dead. I think they know that. I would imagine the servers for a Battle Royale game have to be pretty beefy, because you have to have 100 people on at once. So, that's a lot of... I feel like that would be a lot of money invested in something that's not going to last that long. And people know, or at least I would assume the business guys at BioWare know, that no one's going to be buying Dragon Age for the Battle Royale game. And by the time Dragon Age comes out, it might actually have already been a fad and over with, so there's really no use for them building it. But
I agree with that. So another thing that's kind of, I guess we would say in this vein or similar to this topic, because I kind of feel like we're on multiplayer. I mentioned DLC. There's definitely been a more long-term trend towards games as a service, or at least that's the vernacular that's become popular now. It's certainly the one that EA uses, is video games as a service or live services. Games have moved more towards a continual stream of content being delivered through DLC and, of course, what has now become sort of a dreaded term of microtransactions, more specifically loot boxes. I mean, EA's business model is, really built heavily around live services. So what do you think the next or sort of the future is going forward for this? More of it, less of it?
I don't know. I forget even where I was listening to it or reading it, or even how I came across this information. But just it's video games are a lot more expensive to make, but the price of video games hasn't changed that much.
Right. Yeah.
So they have to make their money somehow. And I'm not saying that like, oh, EA's destitute, we need to give them more money for things to survive. It's I think you were even talking about this. It's like to make such big budget games, they don't need to make a lot of money. They need to make a shit ton of money. Like, they need to make all of the money for even make a profit. And to even do I have such a bad memory. I can't remember who was talking about it on Twitter. But one of the Bioware devs on Twitter, someone was saying, like, the big bag EA bought Bioware. And he was saying, like, well, yeah, we may not like EA, but they saved Bioware from going under. If they didn't buy us when they did, we would have just gone under. And this was before, I think he didn't maybe, like... when did they buy Bioware? Was it after Origins came out or before?
No, it was before. It should have been around 2008, give or take.
Okay. So, yeah, like, I don't know. I don't hate the idea of games as a service, but I think there is definitely a right and wrong way to go about it. And, like, I always get it wrong. Is it it's not Battlefield, it's
Battlefront.
Star Wars Battlefront. There we go. The way Battlefront handled it, that was obviously wrong. But I think kind of going on to like how the DAI multiplayer did, where it was optional to buy it. You can grind for it if you want. Grinding for it wasn't so bad, and a lot of it was cosmetic anyway. I think that's the best way to go for it, so I can choose and I don't feel bad not choosing. At the same time, though, did you actually get a lot of money from that? I feel like we're in this awkward stage of gaming right now, and we have to find a better solution because so far nobody's happy.
Right.
So
I think one thing that's kind of worth talking about as far as this as a trend is that it has been going on for a long time. I do see it continuing, and I see it as being really sort of inevitable. And the reason why I see it as being inevitable is for some of the reasons that you mentioned. And this is something that I've been harping on for a long time, which is that the $59.99 price point has been around a lot longer than the $49.99 price point was around. I actually don't even remember the specifics of when games started costing $14.99, but let's put it this way. The Xbox 360 launches around 2006, which is now 12 years ago. And that's when games started at $59.99. Like, it's been 12 years of that price point for a base game. If you run that backwards, I know it wasn't 1994 when games started costing $49.99. Mm-hmm. So, like, this $59.99 price point has been around a lot longer than the one that it was previous, and games have only been getting bigger and bigger. It was obvious that they were going to have to monetize somewhere else before it was like bigger chunks of like expansion pack type DLC. And then, I don't know, it's just like the numbers seem to break out that you can get a lot more profit by charging people small bits at a time. And I want to say from most of the estimates that I look at, I was looking at one on Gamasutra before we started that says, the distribution is changing consistently and also kind of quickly, somewhat rapidly, where the majority of the money for publishers used to come from the base game and then a little bit from DLC, and that's starting to shift. Where the majority of their money is starting to come from these smaller transactions, and those projections are going through, those are all predicted to continue. So I see it as being inevitable, and also, one of the things that I always try and help people to realize, even though I'm not a huge fan of microtransactions, is that we have to remember that video games are software. In addition to the fact that we interface with them as art, they are in fact software. And the trend of software moving towards a service model has actually preceded this trend in gaming. So if we go back even further, Photoshop moved to subscription.
Which is awful, by the way.
I use GIMP, just so everybody knows. And most antiviruses have been on a subscription model for a lot longer. And of course, just a few years ago, even on the enterprise side, Microsoft and Microsoft Office Suite moved to a subscription model. And it makes sense from a purely economic and technological standpoint, because our expectations as consumers sort of changed. Because of the internet and because of the fact that we're connected all the time. We expect at the very least fixes and patches and sort of like maintenance type stuff to be delivered to us constantly. And then also gamers are sort of expecting content. So as much as I don't like loot boxes as a particular type of DLC, we have to expect that our appetite, so to speak, changed as consumers. And so the business model really couldn't stay the same and remain profitable.
Mm-hmm. Part of me also wonders, I know everyone hates microtransactions, we're not fond of it either, but in doing so, it also keeps, if, let's say they go the other route, and then now buying the base game is $100 or something like that. Now everyone has to pay $100, for Dragon Age 4 or whatever. Which, I would pay, it's expensive, but, do you know how many hours I have in just Dragon Age Inquisition?
450.
Not even close. It's close to 1,000 hours.
Oh, wow. Look at you. You're a champ.
Yeah. I will say there is some of that where I, all of my background footage is from Dragon Age Inquisition, so those hours count. But I do also play offline a lot, so I think it actually is put, legitimately almost 1,000 hours of just playtime. Do you, I put in because also about the DLC. Let's count all that. Let's see, I paid, a little over $100 just for Dragon Age Inquisition, and it gave me 1,000 hours worth of fun. I think that's a wise investment, to be honest.
No, I agree with you.
I can't do the math to see how much money I was spending per minute of fun or whatever, but it's done me okay. So I wouldn't mind putting $100 into Dragon Age 4, but some people don't have that money. So I guess in a way, microtransactions lets the price point be lower, but then someone who wants to pay $10,000 or whatever on his skin can do so. So the rest of us can have it the decent price point. So in a way, it's almost like a charity service to the people who can't afford a more expensive game, which is a weird way to word it, and I feel is almost apologizing for microtransactions.
Well, they're subsidizing the process on the backs of people who just don't have any impulse control and have way more, disposable income, I guess. Just those heavy buyers.
But I have met people who don't have the disposable income but still buy a way too much microtransactions because there is that little gambling component to it. So it's I don't know, I almost feel like it is this weird ethical place in a way.
It is. Well, we shouldn't. We're talking about trends, but this is a trend, and so we shouldn't skip over that, right? And we talked about it at one point at length when we talked about Hawaii, and I don't remember the one European country that had introduced some legislation around it, but certain municipalities, countries, states have taken some legal action, and I want to say that I saw a story recently that said that one of those measures had passed. In one particular country, outlawing loot boxes. I want to say it might have been Denmark. We can always check to make sure we include a link, like we did last time, actually. But I'm a little concerned for it. Not so much with adults, because I'm not a big fan of legislation for things that really should be impulse control on the part of the individual. Do you know what I mean? I think gambling should be legal, and I think that people who are stupid enough to waste all of their money gambling have succumbed to their own folly. So, but what concerns me, however, is that, as much as I hate to use the think of the children argument, we can't completely get away from the fact that kids do play these games. And it's just it's a weird thing when it's kids who are being hooked on that sort of cycle.
Yeah. And the worst offender is always the iPhone games.
Right. Not so much like rated M console games with like involved story, but mobile stuff for sure.
Even Fortnite, like again, going back to my husband's boss, whose kid plays this game. Apparently, like this kid, like for his birthday, he just wanted a bunch of Fortnite skins. You know, like that's all he wanted. Yeah. So that's what kids want nowadays. And like when I was working a lot with children, like all the time they would like, you know, show me like their iPads or their phones or whatever. I'm like, look, my mom got me this thing look, I paid for this power up and that kind of bullshit. But like, yeah, that's, I don't know, I can't imagine my kid saying like, hey, can I buy $5 worth of skins on Fortnite, and be like, oh, okay, that's not a waste of money, but I guess. But I mean, like, I wanted stupid shit as a kid too, so I feel like it's just this generation's version of bullshit, but they won't have a bucket full of bullshit when they grow up. It's just they maybe not even remember they have a grand of Fortnite skins somewhere.
So you're saying it's good for the environment? At least they won't have a bunch of wasted plastic. Yeah, I guess that's a reasonable point to make, right? Is that, you know, it's not like consumerism aimed at children is new. It's just they had a bunch of useless toys before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
do you remember Hit Clips?
Hit Clips? No.
You don't remember Hit Clips? Oh my god, I wanted one so bad, but my mom wouldn't let me get one because they were really stupid. It was like, it was, you know, like those little orange cutie things. It's about the size of that, maybe a little bit smaller. And it was like a little MP3, and you had to buy an individual cartridge. And in that individual cartridge that probably costs like, I don't know, $3-4, you put it into the Hit Clip and it would play 30 seconds of a song that you liked. Wait. And this was huge.
That, I don't remember that. That sounds like an awful idea.
It was huge. Everyone had it. Because this was really before, like, even, like, CD players were really big. Well, I think CD players were big, but only big kids had CD players, and, like, the little kids had Hit Clips. And, like, it made them into keychains, so you'd have them on your backpacks. And, like, all the cool kids would, like, have the Hit Clips, like, the main thing. And then, like, 1,000 of, like, those stupid little, like, 30 seconds. And I'd be like, oh, do you want to listen to 30 seconds of Britney Spears? Well, I got you. And that was my bullshit, and like when I was a kid. So like it's always been like that. So I feel like I can't complain too much about like that type of stuff. So I don't know. It's weird.
That's actually an oddly salient comparison. At first I was just like, what does this have to do with games? But you're right. 30 seconds of Britney Spears is the equivalent of a shitty Fortnite skin.
Yeah, there you go.
So, like, that's an oddly, like, that's a really good point comparatively to make. So I mean, I guess we're both kind of like agreed on the fact that like this trend is happening, it's continuing. I think that there is a good economical reason for it to happen, as far as what our expectations are now as consumers, as far as how much content we get. I do want to say quickly, when you mentioned that $100, like, what if Dragon Age 4 was $100? I would totally pay that also. Like, if the next Mass Effect, which, like, honestly, at this point, like, I just want to see another Mass Effect. if they charged $300 for the next Mass Effect, I'll be like, I'll pay anything to save it.
I'll even give you my firstborn.
Like, if they kickstarted Mass Effect, I would just be on the highest tier that I could be on, and I could go and hang out at Casey Hudson's house for a week or whatever the top backer reward was. But no, like, I would pay a much higher price than $59.99 because, similar to you, I've spent lots and lots of time with these games, and it seems like a fair value proposition if the price point was just higher. I honestly wish that, just like, again, purely from an economic standpoint, that one of these publishers would try to market themselves and their product as like a premium product. Like, no, it's not necessarily going to, we can't fund it by selling to the lowest common denominator at $59.99, but we have this really passionate core fan base that loves deep, extensive content, would they pay $100 or $120 or whatever it is for something that is, cuts the crap as far as microtransactions and you get all the story content up front? Would our hardcore fan base fund that at a higher price point? Like, I just feel like that's worthwhile to try out.
That makes me wonder, I don't know if you saw it, but recently, Greg Ellis, do you know who that is?
Yeah, writer.
No.
Wait, Greg Ellis is the artist?
No.
All right, then I don't know who that is.
He is the voice actor for a couple people, namely Cullen. He also did the first Ander voice and a whole bunch of NPCs throughout the series. But recently, he's been having a lot of dropping little hints here and there that kind of lead up to the conclusion. I saw this, yeah. Yeah, that lead up to the conclusion that he's probably voicing right now Cullen in another Dragon Age installment. And he also says that it's going to be revealed soonish, so I don't know what that means. So part of me was wondering if maybe this is going to be, I don't know if you remember a long time ago when we were talking about one of the devs asking if people would like to play a Dragon Age Tactics game. So what if they have a Dragon Age installment where it's very easy to make. It's really not that intensive for the art and whatever. Maybe they're even pulling assets for other places of the game, but then it's maybe even it's just a dating sim, but then they sell it off for I don't know, like let's just say $40, and it's a really low effort game, but it like has a lot of like story elements or something like that. So like they're really into the lore fans or really enjoy it. It's like I guess what I'm trying to pitch here is games that don't really take that much to make, but they do have something for the super fans, so the super fans will buy it, and could that fund the bigger game as a whole?
That is actually a really good point, and my answer is yeah, that would work. That would work perfectly, and it's interesting, right? Because that in and of itself is, I think, a separate sort of mini trend. The Witcher had the separate Gwent game after the Gwent mini game was really popular, and Elder Scrolls is doing quite well with their card game also. So I think that would actually work really well for Dragon Age if they did a card game or a tactics game. I mean, I would buy that in a heartbeat, and honestly. I think that some of those titles actually are a little more conducive to microtransactions.
That's true, especially card games, because you got those card packs you got to buy. Right,
and so I think that would be an excellent move. I think it would satisfy EA's need to have something that, like you said, has a low price point. I think Gwent it might not have been free to play, but it was very inexpensive. And I want to say the Elder Scrolls card game is also either free to play or very low for the base game. It would satisfy that segment for EA, and as you said, if they did include those story elements, which is what they did for the Elder Scrolls game and for the Witcher Gwent game, I think the hardcore fans for Dragon Age would love it. So I think you're right in calling that out. That might be a really good prediction.
Mm-hmm. Now, if they did do that, would how many people on the Dragon Age subreddit would say BioWare is dying and here is proof?
All of them. More people than are subscribed to the subreddit. How about that? Like somehow it would be like that. It would be like the elections where like more people in one particular county voted than there are population in that county. Like I don't know how that even happens, but it happens.
This is starting to sound like an Alex Jones segment. They're against BioWare.
Well, I mean, our podcast has reached a whole new audience.
The Alex Jones.
So wait. So here's what's gonna happen. You and me are gonna storm the headquarters of Google. I mean EA, and then we're gonna with cameras, and we're gonna get them to tell us the truth about the conspiracies behind their efforts to kill Mass Effect on purpose.
You wanted Andromeda to fail. We saw the original trailer. You downgraded it on purpose.
Microtransactions are turning the friggin' frogs gay.
That's my favorite one.
Look, man, and if anybody out there listens to Alex Jones, first of all, I think he's a very entertaining gentleman.
He's insane.
I've definitely watched this program a lot for the entertainment value, just not for any news value. Also, he tries to sell people seeds a lot, and it's really weird. Why is that guy trying to sell me seeds all the time? And hair regrowth and pre-workout. The dude's like an infomercial.
Yeah, what's the thing he's always selling? It's like
weight loss,
brain juice or something.
Brain juice, gold bars. He's like a CVS pharmacy mixed with crazy.
He's a joke, but Jesus Christ. Do you think... No, okay, we can't talk about Alex Jones. This is a book.
We could. I could just cut it out. I mean,
we could. No. I was just going to ask if you think he's actually insane or if he's just playing it up. But whatever. Anyway. What other gaming trends can we think about? Did you have any other on your list?
Well, VR, right? I mean, VR and AR are the other ones that from a technological standpoint. And we kind of mentioned this actually in our, what was it? Our sort of game-changing ideas episode where we talked about, how it kind of, it maybe could, but it's not likely to fit into Mass Effect or Dragon Age. As far as Bioware as a whole... I don't know, right? Like Destiny and The Division don't have any type of VR stuff, do they?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so I don't know if that necessarily fits in for Anthem, but Casey Hudson worked on HoloLens over at Microsoft. That was actually his whole gig when he left to Microsoft, and so he was working with that hardware. And I think. And this is really, someone's going to have to find this tweet because I'm not going to go back and find it. But I know at some point someone mentioned to him, would you like to incorporate some of those technologies within some of Bioware's projects? And he gave like an appropriately diplomatic answer of like, well, yes, that would be great, but not necessarily. And but, obviously that's now sort of on his resume. He has that experience. I'm sure he would love to make that connection.
I wonder if you could... Okay, I don't know if this would work, but so it's a VR game, and like how in Andromeda when you had to zoom around, they'd have like a fucking cutscene because like it was actually just a little mini model that the little ship would zoom out. Could you like reuse those assets to make like a Mass Effect themed like fighter pilot type of game?
Oh, that would be super fun.
I don't know if that would work, but is there a fighter pilot? Like, there has to be a fighter pilot type of VR game.
Elite
I know
Dangerous.
Star Citizen. Dangerous?
Elite Dangerous is the one ship game that's actually, finished.
I was about to say.
Like, I'm a backer of Star Citizen. I'm not trying to knock it. Like, when I've played it with the really crappy frame rate in the little test areas that they've released as part of the alpha or whatever, it as a concept, it's brilliant. But, Elite Dangerous is like the main, like, ship flying game that people like, and it does have pretty well integrated VR support. I've never played it with VR, but I imagine, there's a model for that for sure.
So I was, this is kind of jumping back a topic, I almost feel like, but we mentioned earlier, like, what if they could do games that were like really easy to make but still had microtransactions attached to it. It was actually the other day, someone had a question about, do you know what the last court is for Dragon Age?
Was that the text adventure?
Yeah, on the Keep.
Yeah, okay.
The other day I was on it for some reason, because someone asked a question and I was like, oh, I should review that, so I was kind of playing the game again, and I don't remember it having it, but that game has microtransactions. You can't actually, out of curiosity, I clicked it. It's like, how much is the conversion rate here for whatever it is to real money? And it's actually, you won't let you do it anymore. But there has been smaller Dragon Age things. Like, there was a Dragon Age Facebook game. I think there was a couple of them, actually. You got Heroes of Dragon Age. Like, they probably already... Like, do you think Heroes of Dragon Age makes a lot of money? I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they might have gotten on the tail end of Facebook game profitability in general. Like for a while there, Farmville and stuff like that was like breaking all sorts of records as far as profitability. And everybody said, well, this is the new platform. Facebook games are it. And so everybody rushed to get a Facebook game out. And then, predictably, that slope just kind of dropped off.
Yeah. Do you think BioWare, or maybe even just EA, is really slow to get to those points? Because, like, I feel like with the Facebook game, like you were saying, and like kind of the open worldness of Inquisition, in Skyrim. And then now Anthem, it says like, oh, you know, it's kind of the Destiny clone. I feel like the Destiny style is kind of like a fading fad. Maybe I'm wrong though, but like when the fad is really big, that's when they say we need to do it, not thinking about, or maybe they do think about it, but the time they actually develop it, it's way past it and nobody cares anymore.
Could be both. Those are two really good theories, right? Either one, they're just not innovative, or two, they execute too slowly. It could be both of those things, right? We don't rightly know, but those are probably the two most likely theories. And I think EA kind of struggles with what many big companies struggle with, right? Which is adaptability and responsiveness. So it's like, just like I said, either they're not creative enough to innovate, or when they, you know, they're just too slow to execute. And you know, there's evidence that you don't have to be first, right? In other industries, right? Apple is famous for the fact that, like, they've never been first to anything, basically. Like, they were not first to the MP3 player. They were not first to the tablet. They were not first to the smartphone. They kind of waited for those initial, you know, first in industry products to be messy, and then they kind of refined the model. EA's not like that. They're not exact. They kind of are more in the vein of like copycat most of the time. Yeah. And so to the loot shooter, hopefully this is because there hasn't really been a real true home run, right? Like even Destiny 2 was kind of underwhelming. So maybe we're waiting for that one instance of it that's just a home run.
And hopefully Anthem is that, because that means good things for Dragon Age.
that is true. And I mean, I don't want to, because I always want to be careful about how much pessimistic stuff I have, but I do always feel the need to note, like, on that topic of responsiveness, I think EA has been pretty good about the live services trend. I think they were one of the first to start, you know, kind of jumping onto that verbiage of calling them live services, and they've been fairly consistent. What concerns me as a Bioware fan is that if I take off my Bioware fan hat and if I looked at it just from an efficiency standpoint, from a unity of a vision standpoint for a large corporation, I would continue to see Bioware as a bit of a problem if I was inside of EA. If I was totally on that side of things and I was just advising on our business being as unified as possible, I would continue to point out Bioware as being like this weird exception. Like, why don't they have more multiplayer? Why don't they have more of these microtransactions? You know, putting aside what I actually know about video games, if I just looked at it as a business, I would say, well, these things are not like the others. Like, why don't we make them do more of these things? And maybe somebody at EA is smart enough to not do that, but then again, maybe somebody at EA is dumb enough to do that. So
now, I don't do business. I do people, but wouldn't it be good to like have a little bit of variety within the games you put out? Because if for some reason multiplayer tanks, you're like, well, at least we got that single player guy. Yeah,
no, I mean, I that's very true, and I think I made this argument recently on one of the episodes, I think, about how, you know, you had a best in class developer for that segment, right? BioWare at one point, maybe neck and neck with Bethesda, but for a while, like, they were the undisputed king of RPGs, and now I think everybody says that's CD Projekt Red because of Witcher 3, and maybe Bethesda as well. And so, like, you at least had the industry leader in that segment. If you let them be sort of more of a purist, at least you could have that. And yeah, like, more diversity is better. So there's definitely an argument to be made for that also. I just think someone at EA has the idea that live services is an umbrella that goes over every genre, no matter what, and I don't think that we know that that's true. Like, that hasn't been proven yet. I think that's still more of a theory.
Okay.
I was going to say, so do we think on live services, it's a steady increase probably going forward?
I would think so. Like, they're trying to find a way to make games more profitable, and I think this is the answer as of now. I wouldn't be surprised if another model comes out, but like, I don't think I'm smart enough to think of it on the top of my head or foresee it, or I don't really know much about money-making things. Like, I feel like indie devs could probably get away with, like, kickstarting projects and whatnot, so you get a little bit of crowdfunding. But, like, BioWare, like, you might get a couple people that, like maybe us two, be like, yeah, we'll chip in some dollars. But, like, you know, the majority of people are like, this is a big company. We're not going to give a big company money to kickstart a game we want. That's ridiculous. And rightfully so. So, like, it's... I don't really know what they could do other than that, you know?
Yeah. What was there anything else trend-wise that you were, that popped up for you?
Really just everything I was seeing was Battle Royale. Everyone's worried about Dragon Age Battle Royale, which I think is kind of silly, but, well, they'll watch me eat my hat, and I don't know.
But Dragon Age Battle Royale sounds like a great April Fool's joke. That's as far as I ever see that going.
Oh, that would be great. Keep this in mind. And next April Fools, we should have, like, just a little mini podcast. Like, did you guys hear they announced Dragon Age Battle Royale? But then, we spin it out where it's like a Dwarven Proving. So it's, like, kind of that. Ooh, this would be good.
Yeah, and there's lore breaking skins, so you can get, like, Mass Effect skins.
Oh my god, Plant vs. Zombie skins.
Madden, NFL Madden, FIFA skins.
I want to play Troy Aikman. Troy Aikman's the only football player I know, and he's been retired since the 90s.
Oh, man.
Oh, God.
It could be like Tom Brady versus Cullen.
Yeah. And then you could also romance Tom Brady.
Oh, come on. He would be the favorite romanceable NFL character.
God, fuck. What if they had BioWare do, like, a sports game and you could, like, romance the different sports guys? Oh, God. Sports guys instead of athlete. God, what? Jesus Christ.
I don't know. How can I segue from this?
I don't know if you can.
No, there's no segue from. So the other couple ones that we kind of already talked on Facebook games, which I kind of feel is the same type of genre. But what about mobile? Right, like mobile has kind of been plugging along for a while, and again, similar. I don't know if it's not exactly the same arc, but it is sort of a similar arc as the Facebook games. At one point, it was going to be mobile everything. And I wouldn't say it's fallen off the same way that the Facebook games have fallen off, but it's definitely evened out. I think it's here to stay, but it's kind of plateaued. Mm-hmm. So what do you think? Is the strategy, or should there be a strategy for BioWare? Should they bother with it? Should they do something like the Vault game that Bethesda has?
Oh, my husband loved that game for some reason. Anyway, well, like, they do have Heroes of Dragon Age, which I've played, like, a couple hours of, and...
Same, yeah.
I just don't like it. That's not the type. The type of mobile games I always end up playing are like puzzle games. Like oh god, what was it called? Like Monument Valley. Was that it? That was really good. The Room is an amazing series of puzzle games. Like it costs like I think like $4 or $5, or I don't know how much money it's worth, but get it. It's amazing. There's like 4 of them. I love all of them anyway. But like puzzle games and kind of that sort of thing, I think is the only thing that really works well on mobile. And I think the only exception to that, because I don't really count it as a puzzle, but like there's a Sailor Moon iPhone game called Sailor Moon Drops, and I love it. It's basically just Bejeweled or Candy Crush. I hate Candy Crush, so I say Bejeweled. But it's very simple. Like, oh, I got 5 minutes. I'll just pull up some Sailor Moon Drops, play a couple things, lose all my lives, and then I'm good to go. It's a very nice, like, quickly do the thing and I'm done. The things with like The Room and like a couple of the other iPhone games I've played, you really got to sit down for a while and think out the puzzles. And I kind of feel like that way with Dragon Age Heroes, where you really got to like sit down for a while and be like, all right, what's my strategy to defeat the guys? And it just, I don't know, I don't want to sit down and like, okay, here's my Hero of Dragon Age time. Like the games I always play the most are going to be like, I have 5 minutes, what can I do in 5 minutes? And really the classical games like that are like the Bejeweled or like the Snake, they're really simple games. So unless they come out with like a Dragon Age version or a Mass Effect version of that, I can't imagine it doing like super well, and it kind of plateauing like Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. Like, I was really into that for like a week, and then I got bored because I couldn't just sit there for an hour doing Animal Crossing Pocket Camp.
Yeah, so. No, I'm kind of with you on that, where like I like story-driven games, and that's what I like Bioware for, but I don't necessarily know how they fit that mold into mobile. I'm kind of with you on like the puzzle games. Like, I really liked Super Hexagon, going back a ways, Bleck. I loved, oh my god, you just said it.
Monument Valley.
Monument Valley, yeah. Monument. I loved Monument Valley. Sword and Sorcery, I guess, had story element to it, although it was more minimalist. But I like that also. I mean, I guess when I think Dragon Age, the only thing I could think of that would work as far as melding puzzle and story is if you had a character that was like, you know, you had a little bit of a story in there, but you were primarily solving puzzles by going through like dwarven ruins or maybe like elven ruins, and you came up with a bunch of different puzzles and then some short cutscenes. Or, you know, maybe like a city management / castle defense, you know, where you had like a keep or a hold that you had to like upgrade, and you could weave a story into that. Or if you did Mass Effect, it would be kind of cool to have a not necessarily fleet to fleet, but like a ship management where you kind of like manage a little crew, upgrade your ship, that sort of thing. Those are the only types I can see where they could succeed in mobile.
There was oh god, fuck me, what was it called? Astrariums. There we go. That would make a great mobile game. From Dragon Age Inquisition. Do you know what I'm talking about? Oh,
the Astrariums, yeah.
Yeah. Like that, like, I remember when Dragon Age Inquisition was, like, had a lot of people playing it, there was people asking, like, I've done all the Astrariums, is there a game like this? Because I love this little puzzle game. And, like, yeah, people were really, I can't remember what any of the clones of it were, or games like it. But, yeah, I think if they made a bunch of those, and, like, you finish one, you get, like, a very small story behind it, like, people would love that. So...
I would, ? I would. I guess on those, I would just say I actually loved the Astrariums the first time I played. I want to say I've maybe only done them twice on all my playthroughs, because I do find them to, like, you know, kind of break up the pacing of that game. But you're right, standalone, I would totally do that, like, you know, because you could do those somewhat quickly on your phone. Another, this is, I guess, kind of... well, it is a trend. Again, I see it as being more of a mini trend, but it's one of the only things that I'm going to mention today that's like a trend that I'm super positive about, and it's one that I think many of us never expected. It's like a real, like, how the hell did this come back? And that's CRPGs. And you mentioned, you know, crowdfunding and stuff like that. Like when Pillars of Eternity was a success, crowdfunding, and Obsidian got to make that game, and then Divinity came out, and then Tyranny has had the success that it has. And then, of course, they just released, like an actual expansion again to Baldur's Gate, right? I mean, I see it as being super unlikely for Bioware, but could you ever imagine them doing, like, a separate Dragon Age game that's like a true legit CRPG in the vein of Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, all that stuff, given that those games have now had a resurgence in popularity because of Pillars and then Divinity?
Well, that's like, that'd be a really good mix with the Dragon Age Tactics thing that they talked about. So like if they came up with that, that would be my dream game, because I love Divinity and I gotta play the other ones just because I've been so busy anytime. But I think it would really fit with what they do naturally anyway. So yeah, I hope they do it. I just don't know if they will, because like Divinity, like I don't like it's sold well, but I don't think they made a ton of money off of it. You know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I was also a fan of Divinity, but also, I mean, Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire just came out, and I do want to say on a side note, I did get it. I started playing it, although I will say, and this is like, you know, whatever, shame on me, I never beat Pillars of Eternity, although I liked it. I kind of stalled out on it because I started playing other things, and so I kind of tried to, like, you know, whatever, like read a story summary and then go into Pillars of Eternity 2. I ended up not being able to do it, so I restarted Pillars of Eternity, and like, no joke, you know, Pillars is it's hard. You know, it's like, it's unforgiving, especially compared to the learning curve of modern games, but I got really, really into Pillars of Eternity, like more than I did the first time. And I don't know, like I just think there's something to the narrative structure of a game that has a somewhat significant reliance upon text. Like even Divinity, which I like, they've pretty much gone to full voice acting and not as much of the descriptive prose that you get mixed in with the dialogue on Pillars of Eternity. And there's something really interesting. Like you can do certain interesting gameplay things when it's just text that I think would actually be a little bit convoluted to do with audio visual, like more cinematic style.
Yeah. See, I wouldn't mind that at all. Or, like, even if it's, like, the, I haven't played Pillars, but I don't know if they do, like, if a parrot character comes up, they'll have, like, a little voice, like, or ah, where, like, you kind of get a sense of what the character sounds like, but they don't actually voice the line. I think that's a really good, like, it's very simple. They have probably a whole bunch of voice actors already on the market. It's like, can you just give me one Like, I imagine that wouldn't be that expensive to do. Especially if they're already on payroll doing something else. You could probably even, like, scalp a couple of them from, like, the in-game, like, when you hit someone, they go, ah, you know? Like, just scrape one of those.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, they do have that as well. And, you know, and then when some characters that are fully voice acted, you know, it's really good voice acting in some spaces as well.
So if they did any of that, I would love it. But, do you think they would do a Mass Effect one? Could they do that?
You know, I thought about that as well, and I thought, well, the combat system...
It could be kind of like XCOM.
If they did, I was gonna say more like the top-down shooters, like you know what I mean, like the top-down arcade, like thumbstick controlled shooters.
Oh, yeah.
You could do that too, but if they did something like XCOM, oh man, get out of here! Like XCOM with basically a Mass Effect story, like yeah, I'd be so down for that. Take my money.
Oh man, do you think they'll actually do any because they talked about like specifically for Dragon Age, would you want like an XCOM Fire Emblem clone, and like people were really positive about it, but like I don't know if they'll actually get to do it, but I hope they do.
I think it's a matter of resources for BioWare. I mean EA, you know, like I always forget the name of the I think it's A Way Out, that one co-op indie game that EA did.
Yeah.
You know, like even just stuff like that it's encouraging because it shows that maybe somewhere within EA there's some branch that considers, you know, like these one-off indie titles that maybe don't have a huge chance of profitability, but they can be made relatively cheaply. And if you have an unexpected hit on your hands, you've got huge margins. I just don't know if they treat BioWare that way, or especially now with the focus on Anthem and Dragon Age Inquisition having been BioWare's most successful financial launch at that point. You know, do they see Dragon Age as their sort of like Skyrim in waiting, like they're expecting it to be a mega hit like that, and then Anthem is their destiny? So it'd be nice if BioWare had the staff to spare, if they could, you know, carve off this splinter team to do like this crazy CRPG project for Dragon Age. I'd give it a very low chance of actually happening, but I think someone at EA should really consider the fact that could be a low budget hit.
Now I do wonder if because this was poised when this was questioned when BioWare Montreal was still a thing. I wonder if the closing of BioWare Montreal actually like hindered that in some way, even more so than it, like, you know, than not having enough time. Maybe that was going to be their plan, where they had like a Dragon Age headquarters, an Anthem headquarters, and a Mass Effect headquarters, and then like if all three of them maybe like on the side work on that. I don't know, but
I mean, look, all they have to do, you hear like, you know, David Gator and some of these other folks talking about how like in the old days, you know, everybody did everything. You were a writer, but you like programmed parts of stuff. It's like, man, like just give him an updated version of the Infinity Engine and give David Gator like a 20-person team and be like, go man, like what can you do in 2 years?
Well, he's off of Beamdog now. I wonder what he's up to. Maybe he's just like relaxing and taking it cool. But like, yeah, he hasn't announced what he's doing next, I think. So I wonder if like maybe he'll come back. I don't know.
The biggest trend in gaming is BioWare writers leaving and coming back and then leaving again.
Oh, please no. Oh God. Anyway,
was there anything else to touch on? I don't know. Yeah, I think those were probably the big ones, right? Like we knew it was going to be microtransactions, loot boxes, battle royale, and some of these smaller ones. I'm glad we got to talk about as well.
Yeah, I got nothing. I don't know if we cut all the part of us complaining about tech, but after we really struggled just to get this one working. My brain's kind of frazzled.
Yeah, depending on how we cut this, people may or may not know that this was a super hard struggle. It took us 30 minutes to get started because of connection issues and hardware issues and things not working.
Yeah, and then it's also not our usual time because I'm going to be out of town, so it's super great.
We got more things coming up, folks.
Well, yeah, speaking of things coming up, we should talk about our 1-year anniversary.
It is the impending. Does impending have a negative connotation? Right? Impending doom? It doesn't have to. The impending good stuff.
Yeah, impending good stuff. It's so the official anniversary is going to be June 16th, if I'm remembering correctly, and that's just the date when we released the first episode. Because right now what we're doing is we're doing 2 episodes a month. We're going to be kind of releasing our second episode of the month a little bit later so we can get E3 coverage, and that one's just going to be about Anthem or whatever we feel like happened in E3. And then after that, we kind of wanted to do a live stream of, I think it's specifically, we decided it was going to be me playing Mass Effect Andromeda, so you can hear us complain about it live. Isn't that fun?
We're just going to continually reset that Andromeda counter back down to 0.
Yeah, the whole thing is just going to be in the negatives by the time we're done with it. Maybe we can see... You're going to have to load me up with some mods. Maybe this is going to be me trying to figure out, trying to get a writer I like. Maybe this is what this a self-discovery. And, yeah, if you have any questions you want us to talk about, come on in. We'll chat about it while I'm complaining about a video game. It's... Come on in.
Ooh, if I'm not having to play, if I'm not the one playing, if the listeners want to come up with a drinking game for me...
Oh, no.
We'll just see how that goes.
Yeah, okay, so you have to get alcohol prepared then. Yeah, we haven't really settled on an exact time and date, but hopefully we will by the time this episode comes out, so check the description, and there should be a little box that says, hey, I'm the part where you have to read to get the time and date. And we'll also, link to where we're going to be streaming. But yeah, just follow either me and Jordan on Twitter, and we'll keep you guys posted. So... I think with that, Jordan, where can they find your Twitter so they know where to keep you posted?
They can find me at The Exalted March on Twitter, The Exalted March on Instagram, and of course, The Exalted March on YouTube.
And I'm Ghildirthalen on YouTube, Ghildirthalen on Twitter, and for some reason Reddit is Ghilanon. I always get confused with the cheese. And with that, guys, Duress Sherelle.